Have you ever heard of the day the wind stopped blowing? Not slowed down, not grew quiet for a moment, but truly stopped. Imagine a world where the leaves on trees stand perfectly still, where waves on the sea freeze in place, where children's kites fall lifeless to the ground, and even the clouds pause in the sky as if they have forgotten how to move. This is the story of that day. The day when the wind held its breath. The village in the valley. Nestled between two green hills, there was a small village called Lumora. It was the kind of place where mornings smelled of fresh bread from the baker's oven, and evenings echoed with the laughter of children chasing each other down cobblestone streets. But what made Lumora special wasn't its bread or its laughter, or even its hills. It was the wind. The wind in Lumora was alive. It was playful, like a friend you couldn't see but always felt. On hot summer days, it carried cool relief through open windows. On rainy nights, it whistled gentle lullabies through the cracks in wooden roofs. It loved to tug at the children's hair, to scatter petals across the marketplace, to race the river and bend the fields of golden wheat into rippling waves. And the villagers loved it back. They believed the wind was a gift, a companion that kept their valley alive. Farmers said their crops grew straighter and taller because the wind kept the air clean. Sailors whispered that the wind guided them safely home, and children swore the wind whispered secrets in their ears if they listened closely enough. But like all things loved too long, the villagers began to take it for granted. The arrogance of quiet hearts. In time, the villagers stopped thanking the wind. They forgot the way it cooled their brow after a long day in the fields. They stopped noticing the way it scattered the scent of flowers, so the valley always smelled fresh. Instead, they began to complain. "The wind has blown my laundry away again," one woman grumbled. "It keeps ruining my hat," moaned a man in the marketplace. "Every time I build a card tower, it knocks it down," cried a little boy. The wind, though invisible, heard them all. And for the first time in centuries, it began to wonder, am I really wanted here? Or am I just a bother? But the wind did not answer yet. It only sighed and kept blowing. A curious girl named Elara. In Lumora lived a girl named Elara. She was 12 years old with wide brown eyes that seemed to see more than most, and hair that always tangled because she liked to run against the breeze instead of with it. Elara was curious about everything. She asked questions no one else dared. Why do stars twinkle? Why does bread rise in the oven? Why do birds never get lost? But the question she loved most was about the wind. Where does it come from? She would ask her grandmother. It comes from faraway mountains, her grandmother would reply. And where does it go? Elara would press. Wherever it is needed, came the answer. Elara liked to think of the wind as a traveler, carrying stories from mountain to ocean, from desert to forest, from one beating heart to another. Unlike the other villagers, she never complained when it knocked her hat off or tangled her hair. She laughed as if the wind were teasing her in play. The wind noticed her laughter. The day it stopped. It was a morning like any other. The sun rose lazily over the hills, and the marketplace filled with voices. Children prepared their kites for the afternoon breeze. The miller sharpened his blades for the wind to turn. But then, it happened. The wind stopped. At first, no one noticed. A leaf fell from a tree and landed silently on the ground. A scarf hung motionless on a washing line. The sails on the riverboats drooped as if tired. But soon, the silence grew heavier. Children threw their kites into the sky, but they fell flat. The baker's chimney smoke rose straight upward, not dancing away. The miller's blades refused to spin, and without them, his flour could not be ground. By noon, the village realized. The wind was gone. Panic in stillness. The villagers were restless. Their world felt wrong. "How am I to sail my boat without wind?" shouted a fisherman. "My wheat will spoil if the air grows stale," cried a farmer. "This silence, it makes me dizzy," whispered an old woman. Some even grew angry. "The wind has abandoned us," they shouted, forgetting all the years it had served them faithfully. But Elara felt something different. She didn't feel anger. She felt sadness. That night, as the village tossed in uneasy silence, Elara climbed the tallest hill. She looked over the valley, still and breathless. Then she whispered into the sky, "Wind, where are you?" Why did you leave us?" And for a moment, though the air was still, she thought she heard an answer deep in her chest, "Because you forgot me." Elara's journey. The next morning, Elara decided she couldn't let it end this way. If the wind had truly left, she would go find it. So she packed a satchel with bread, a flask of water, and a small flute her grandmother had given her. And with determination brighter than the morning sun, she set off across the hills. Her journey took her through the forest, where the leaves stood frozen on branches like painted pictures. No rustle, no whisper, only silence. She crossed rivers where the surface lay glassy and still, no ripples to break its calm. Even her footsteps seemed too loud. Finally, after days of travel, she reached the edge of the world, or so it seemed, for there stood the great mountain cliffs, taller than clouds, jagged as if carved by giants. And at the mouth of a dark cave, she felt something. Not a breeze, not a gust, but a memory. A faint trace of what once was. "The wind is here," she whispered. The cave of echoes. Inside the cave, it was cold and damp. The air was heavy, as if holding something back. And deep within, Elara found it. The wind. Not as she knew it. It was not playful, not light. It was a great swirling spirit coiled upon itself like a sleeping dragon. Its voice rumbled low like distant thunder. "Why have you come?" it asked. Elara trembled, but stood tall. "Because we need you." The wind's voice shook the cave. "Do you? Your people cursed me. They called me nuisance. They forgot my gifts." "They were ungrateful," Elara admitted. "But not all of us. I still remember. I still laugh when you play with me. I still feel safe when you sing at night. Please, don't punish us all." The wind studied her. "You are but one child. Why should I return for you?" Elara took a deep breath. Then she pulled out her flute, and she played. The melody was soft like a lullaby. It rose and fell like gentle waves, weaving notes that sounded like laughter, like friendship, like home. For the first time in days, the wind stirred, just a small swirl around her feet. The test. But the wind was not so easily convinced. "If I return, what will stop your people from forgetting again? What will remind them to honor what they cannot see?" Elara thought. Then she said, "Give them a lesson they cannot forget." The wind paused, then it rumbled. "Very well. If they wish me back, they must prove it. They must stand together, without anger, without complaint, and call to me with one voice." Elara nodded. "I will tell them." And so the wind released her. She raced home faster than she ever had, though the air still lay heavy around her, calling the wind. When Elara returned to Lumora, the villagers gathered around her. She told them what she had seen, what she had heard. "The wind is waiting," she said, "but it will only return if we call it together, not with anger, not with complaints, with gratitude." At first, the villagers grumbled. "Why should we thank what has left us?" But then they looked around, the still sails, the dying crops, the suffocating silence, and they realized how much they had lost. So they gathered in the valley square. One by one, voices rose. "Thank you for cooling our summers. Thank you for carrying our boats. Thank you for turning our mills. Thank you for playing with our children." Their voices grew louder, weaving into one chorus. "Come back to us, wind, come home." The breath released. For a moment there was nothing, only silence. Then, like the first heartbeat after a long sleep, the air moved. A single leaf trembled, a scarf fluttered, and then, all at once, the valley breathed again. The sails swelled. The kites soared, the wheat bent in golden waves. The people laughed and cried as the wind rushed through their village, playful and alive, as if it had only been waiting for this moment. Elara felt it swirl around her, gentle and warm. A whisper brushed her ear. "Thank you, little one." The lesson of Lumora. From that day on, the people of Lumora never forgot. Every morning they stepped outside their doors and whispered thanks to the wind. Children laughed when it tugged at their clothes. Farmers smiled when it danced through their fields. Sailors sang when it filled their sails. And Elara, she grew up to be known as the girl who brought back the wind. But she always said, I didn't bring it back. We did, together. And so, my friend, remember this. Sometimes we only notice the value of something when it is gone. Whether it is the wind, a friend, a family member, or even the simple blessings of everyday life, gratitude keeps them alive in our hearts.